Brilliance Audio presents The Girls in the Attic by Marius Gabriel. Performed by Mary Jane Wells. It had been a fine memorial service, the family agreed. They'd given Dad a good send-off. The cemetery, in rural Connecticut, was tranquil. The magnificent show of autumn leaves lent additional poignance to an occasion that was melancholy without being tragic. Dad had died in the summer 3 months earlier at 94, burdened by ailments, tired and ready to rest. The service, held in the ecumenical chapel, had been well organised. The kids had all said something. Voices from different religions had spoken. There had been funny anecdotes, tears and smiles, a release of emotions, all the ingredients of a good ceremony. After the service, flowers had been laid at the grave. The focus had been on Mom. She hadn't spoken at the service. But that didn't surprise the people who knew her well. Mom didn't do speeches or displays of feeling. She'd worn an exquisite dove-grey suit. Everyone had commented on it. She'd been graceful and gracious, as always. Someone had remarked that over the past month she had settled into widowhood. And the phrase seemed to fit. She'd been dignified and restrained in public. She'd done any crying in private. She'd thanked everyone in person, had made time for friends and relations who had travelled long distances to be here and who'd been unable to come to the funeral, which, by family agreement, had been a small private affair. It had been later, back at Mom's house, that the jarring moments had come. Maggie hadn't paid much attention to the first incident, just a few words from an old man whose name she didn't remember, but whose face was distantly familiar. He'd given Maggie a small, faded old photograph, which made no sense to Maggie. His memory was probably failing, and he'd got her mixed up with someone else. Maggie had just smiled and nodded her thanks. She put the photograph away. The second occasion had been an hour or two later, when people were starting to leave the house. An elderly relative of Mom's, one of the few surviving Rosensteins, had taken her hands and murmured some words of sympathy. The words had startled Maggie. She'd looked into the elderly relative's eyes quickly, searching for any signs of confusion. But the gaze that met hers had been serene. She'd watched the old lady leave, ushered into her car by a uniformed chauffeur. Between the first little incident and the second, something had developed. A crack. And when Maggie thought about it, the crack seemed to extend beyond today. It seemed to travel, whispering, all through her life. She started to feel that the strange little photograph was something significant after all. Something momentous. Maggie didn't say anything to Mom until close to midnight, when Mom had had a rest, and the kids and grandkids and great-grandkids had all departed, leaving the house still and empty. There was an abundance of food in the kitchen, enough to feed an army, but neither of them wanted to eat. Instead, they lit a log fire and poured themselves 2 glasses of Dad's favourite malt whiskey. They settled into armchairs. Maggie raised her glass. To Dad. Lola raised her own glass. To Dead. After a moment she added, to life. They drank. Maggie watched the tongues of flame lick around the bone-dry logs that Dad had cut seasons ago, before he got so sick and weak. Aunt Caroline said something weird to me this afternoon. I heard her, Lola replied. She too was staring into the flames. She said it was time you stopped hiding the truth from me. At first, I thought she was rambling, but she wasn't. I was really disturbed, Mom. Why would she say something like that? Lola didn't reply. Her mother had a way of falling silent that had always made Maggie feel as though a heavy velvet curtain had dropped around her. You couldn't reach through it, or you didn't dare. Mom could be formidable.